Men do not menstruate. Only women menstruate. Now, you can call yourself whatever you want.
Cis men don't menstruate, but trans men do menstruate.
No,
Same
they
as
don't.
non-binary people.
Only women.
Menstruating is not exclusive
Yes,
to
it
cis
is.
women. No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
So explain to me as to why my body menstruated at
if
some
your
point
chromosomes
then.
are XX and you're young, you menstruate. If you're XY, you don't.
Correct, but what about trans men and non-binary? We're
not men.
excluding a whole group of people
They're women
that
dressed
menstruate.
as men. You are not a man.
Today we are talking about whether school should include gender identity in their curriculum or not.
Men do not menstruate. Only women menstruate. Now, you can call yourself whatever you want.
Cis men don't menstruate, but trans men do menstruate.
No,
Same
they
as
don't.
non-binary people.
Only women.
Menstruating is not exclusive to cis women. No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
So explain to me as to why my body menstruated at
If
some
your
point
chromosomes are XX and you're young, you menstruate. If you're XY, you don't.
Correct, but what about trans men and non-binary? We're excluding a whole group of people
They're women
that
dressed
menstruate.
as men. You are not a man. You can pretend to be a man, and that's okay. That's perfectly fine. Live your life and tell me what a man is.
Well, what's a man to you? You define a man for me.
You have chromosomes that are X and Y. That's what a man is.
So why are we just looking at the science of this as an example?
Science.
When we've learned sex and gender identity are they're completely different things.
They're not completely different.
They are
things.
completely different.
Completely different words.
And sex is what you're born with, the sexual reproductive organs you have. Gender is what you identify with. They're completely
Well, I don't
different
accept that
things.
distinction. You have to argue for it. You're just giving a conclusion. You're just making it up.
This fifth grade teacher is amazing. He's spot on the issue. It's fine to have men pretending to be women, and similarly, women pretending to be men. This has existed throughout history, actually. But at the same time, throughout history, sex and gender was the very same thing. Until the point where the pharmaceutical company realized that they can create long life patients, people that are going to use their drugs through their whole life using the trans ideology. And now we end up in a situation where this agenda is pushed on younger and younger people because they want to create long life patients to be able to have long life profits. If you're getting value in this video, let us know by clicking on the like button and subscribing for more similar content.
When Jordan mentioned before how he identifies as a man, I'd like to know how it's not rude from your perspective.
Because it's not true.
May I finish?
He's not a man.
When someone identifies a certain way, for you to tell them that that is not correct, that they are that particular gender or identity.
Why do I feel that it's right to tell them the truth?
But it's not
You know,
the truth.
the people who hate the truth, are because they see the truth as hateful. If you want to identify in any way you can, you're free to do so. But that does not mean that the rest of us have to join that illusion.
Sadly, the vast majority of these people pushing this agenda are women. And people say that men and women are the same. It's very clear that women are much more emotional driven than men. And men are much more logic based than women. And we can clearly see the example of the transgenderism ideology, where the vast majority of the supporters of this ideology are women, because clearly this ideology doesn't have a logical base.
The signs of gender dysphoria develop very young. Like you can see it in a 3-year-old. And by the time they're 4, their gender identity is pretty much solidified. So you will see the signs of someone who's not happy with the gender they're born with very little.
Actually, that's not true. That is not true.
You can suppress it. Their gender expression is different.
True.
Gender
all
expression
of the
depends on the
all the science for the last 100 years has shown in boys who experience gender dysphoria between 2 and 3, 85% of them simply grow up to be gay.
Oh, I love that you're saying
And the other 5,
exactly which one it is.
don't interrupt and be rude.
I will.
The other 5%
You don't think that dismissing an entire group of people is being rude?
And then there are 1 or 2%, the transgender dysphoria persists into adulthood.
At the age of 4,
Do you see the trans activists, these men that pretends to be a woman, how these men will attack the teacher because he disagreed with the teacher? It is always the most virtuous signaling that are the most aggressive when they do not agree with the person they are talking to. And on top of that, the teacher is totally right. The vast majority, 85+% of the gender dysphoria disappear in adulthood. And this is why the pharmaceutical companies are pushing this ideology. So you can get the kids very young before the gender dysphoria disappears. At the end of the day, when you're pushing this ideology on children that are 4, 5, 6, this is grooming. This is the definition of grooming. Pushing sexual ideas on children is grooming.
I was one of those students who was outed when I was 8 years old, and it did not end well. My third grade teacher outed me to my parents over the phone. I was punished. I was sent to therapy to get me to stop announcing that I was a girl. I was teased and bullied at school because she was also outing me to other students and teachers. And I was grounded by my parents. So no, they don't always react well.
It is the role of the parent to not feed delusion. Every single parent has heard a story about their kids stating that they are something that they are not. Whether the kids think that is Spider-Man or the kids think that she's the princess, there are lots of different stories. And sadly, you have stories about kids pretending to be Superman and jump out of the window, or little girl that thought that they were mermaid and end up drowning in the sea. We shouldn't feed delusion as a society, and it is the role of the parent to stop the delusion from the kids. Obviously, a kid that is 8 years old doesn't know anything about life. How can we trust a kid? It is the role of the parent to protect their kid against these toxic ideologies. If someone says that they are too fat when clearly they are anorexic, what should be the solution from the parent? Is the solution to feed delusion and telling the kid that they should cut on their diet even more? Or is it the solution to tell them that they are delusional and they need to seek help?
If a transgender person is not harming you or the people you love, why do you care so much? I want you to be quiet. I want you to stop being hateful.
Question, so let me answer. You disagree, I disagree with you, and so you call it hate. But there's no hate in my heart at all. So that's
You
wrong.
are being hateful when you tell somebody that identifies as a man that they're not a man.
That's not hateful. That's a fact.
I think it's the latter for any loving parent. And kids can easily be influenced, and you can tell from the way the parents will raise their kids. If a parent is a musician, it's very likely that the kids will want to be a musician. Similarly, if the parent is a sport person, it's very likely that the kid will want to be a sport person as well. So the way the parents raise their kids highly influences the way the kid perceives themselves. If from 2 or 1 we are telling a young boy that is a girl, he will unfortunately think that he's a girl. But that's the role of the parent, to not feed delusion. At the end of the day, we end up in this situation because we are lacking strong men. Men that know what they are worth. Men that are leaders. And if you as an individual are interested to join a community of ambitious men striving to be their best version, I recommend you to join our brotherhood groups on local. And this is the place for the best ambitious men today. Click on the link in the description below.
We're talking $5.5 million to put these in all the bathrooms
Yes.
across the state?
Yes, K through 12. And that $5.5 million, it's a carve out. So it comes out before they distribute the money to the schools after that. And so considering everything that has happened since the pandemic and beyond, achievement gaps,
just education in general, where Oregon falls across all the states for education, the idea of taking this money out for feminine hygiene products, which is available in schools. You may have to ask for them, they're in the office and stuff like that, but they've always been available.
Do you know what percentage of the budget this is for Oregon's educational budget?
All I know, I don't know the percentage, but I do know that it equates to 30 teachers a year.
If a woman thinks that she's a boy, she's still a woman, and hence she still menstruates. It will be much easier for this woman to go in the female's bathroom. Let's clarify the situation. We have schools that now are putting female hygiene products in the male's bathroom. And this is costing the taxpayer $5 million. That's insane. Surely someone should say that this is a waste of money. Just for the convenience of kids that are totally disturbed, the whole society has to pay the price. And the taxpayer is now funding an ideology that most people will not believe in.
I mean, like we saw in Tennessee, trans boys do need to use restrooms. Trans boys can menstruate, and that's okay. And second, if people are running out of menstrual products, which I went to a school that provided them, it happens all the time, a boy can just run to the back room and grab it for his friend. So this is actually a law that benefits everyone, including cisgender women.
So you have this man that is actually now mansplaining the female audience about female hygiene product in the bathroom. It's a manipulation of language if you pay attention. Trans women are not women. They're actually boys that pretend to be women. They should not be called trans women. They should be called trans-identifying boys. So yes, trans-identifying boys do not menstruate. Similarly, for boys that do not menstruate, trans-identifying women do menstruate. But they are still women. And this is the manipulation of the words that we should all stay away from. There's no such thing as a trans woman or trans man. It's a trans-identifying man or trans-identifying woman. How is this putting female hygiene products in the men's bathroom benefiting everyone? It is actually not benefiting boys. It is not benefiting men.
I love books. There's a stack of books behind me, though, that are very disturbing and troubling. They are manifestations of this new phenomena that is called queer theory and gender theory. What they have done is they have put into the form of little cardboard books for little hands big ideas like transgenderism, transsexuality, binary, non-binary. Unfortunately, what they are doing is now adulterating the minds of children that they cannot absorb or process. It is called grooming because grooming amounts to having age-inappropriate conversations with children, oftentimes for nefarious purposes, but we do know that these are conversations that are best left at these young ages for parents with their children.
When you look at the books that are being pushed in school today, they are not just ideology book, they are porn book, explicit images of porn that are being pushed to these kids. Are you telling me that this is now acceptable because it is under the umbrella of LGBTQ, when basically the same porn, if it was straight porn, would be forbidden for any kids before 16 or 18? But now, because it is under the umbrella of LGBT, it is totally acceptable for 8 years old, 7-year-olds to access this type of books. I was reading this interesting statistic about mothers and the sons that are suffering of gender dysphoria. Check it out. 53% of the mothers whose sons suffer from gender dysphoria have been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. Let that sink in. I've watched the whole episode and I've been extremely disappointed by Dr. Phil. The way he has set up his interview, this debate, is totally biased. The vast majority of hosts on stage were for the one side of the argument. The vast majority of the people, the interview in the public, were for this argument. the vast majority of the time they have allocated to the presentation of one side of the argument is way bigger than the other side of the argument. It is very clear that the channel that is sponsoring Dr. Phil has one idea in mind, is to have this transgenderism to be supported. And this is why the vast majority of the hosts were for this agenda. But this is what happens when a TV channel is supported and financing by pharmaceutical companies. They do not have a choice. And this is why we are seeing more and more independent speakers, independent journalists on Twitter being free from these constraints, speaking their mind and providing great reports, great reporting, great science, much more accurate without the pressure of their sponsors. If you're interested to watch a funny video about a male smashing the woman's record claiming he's a transgender woman, click on this link.